Hi, and welcome to Queers and Soaps. I'm Eric, joined today once again by this guy.
Hey, how you going, guys?
We're doing another Dallas season 4, episodes 4, 5 to 8, right?
Yeah.
Tommy, roll the credits and we'll chat. All right, so season 4, episode 5 is called Taste of Success, right? I think.
I think so. I
I
go
didn't
by
double
episode
check the
numbers.
title. Um, Kristen's telling everybody what she did to JR, that she shot him and all that jazz. The DA's there. She was saying that she loved JR and was jealous and blah blah blah. She shot him, says she was in a panic, and he was like, "Well, you like framed your sister," and she's like, "Oh, I didn't know what I was doing," and whatever. Um, JR says he forgives her, and then he works it out with the DA. Like, I guess he takes them away and probably pays them off and makes him see his way.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
okay.
It was a bit anticlimactic.
Yeah, I felt the same. And it was like
Yeah,
all wrapped up in like the first 5 minutes. And I totally forgot to look up, but do you remember, as I know Kristen goes to Knots Landing for one episode. Is this when she goes there? Because they say she's going to
I presume
California.
so. I presume
I
so.
think
It's
it
in season
is.
2, so it'd be the
Okay, it is
same year as
season two.
season 4.
Right, right. I couldn't remember the exact season, and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. She probably goes to California. She does that one episode, and then wherever. I don't know. She's never seen again
So
for a while.
yeah,
Sorry, I thought you were going to say something.
it's just like
Um,
how the story goes. That's all.
yeah, it's a weird story. Definitely a lot of things don't go the way you think it's gonna go,
I think it was
but
written a certain way, and then they changed it.
that could be too.
Because
And I
usually,
wonder
I don't
why.
know, usually when you find a narrative, like unless like so when you look at things like that, like a who done it or whatever, and you look back on it, you're supposed to be able to fit the pieces together, and you're like, oh, that's how it makes sense. It's like on a further viewing, you see the red herrings and the clues in a different light. This isn't that. This is the narrative leading you to a point, not necessarily um, who 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 did it, but it was more like the circumstances, like her whole backstory there is just needlessly contrived. So, like,
Yeah.
I reckon someone was actually a murderer at some point, but then they changed it.
Hmm. I wonder if they actually made it Sue Ellen and then we're just like, no, or yeah, that makes sense.
Well, I know that they filmed multiple people in the pool.
Yeah.
Yeah, even the DVD set of season 5 has Sue Ellen in the pool. The shot, the cast photo, like on the little inside of the DVD, it's Sue Ellen. It's
Oh
not
yeah,
who
yeah.
it is. Yeah,
Right.
I was wondering why that was different.
Yeah. So Ellie apologizes to Sue Ellen for, thinking she was responsible, which I feel like she didn't really owe her one because Sue Ellen thought she did it too, so whatever. But she did.
Uh,
She's, I guess, a nice lady.
It's just that family shit. It's just like I know they're in-laws and everything, but like it's just that whole oh, we should, it's just that inherent I owe you an apology because I should have known better, I guess. But yeah,
Yeah. Even though she didn't know herself, so I mean, whatever.
yeah.
And then the case is officially closed. JR and Sue Ellen send Kristen off to California. Bobby is getting Ewing 23 going again, which is exciting for Cliff, even though Cliff doesn't really know, I don't think, or find out, which I thought was kind of odd.
Well, it doesn't really matter in a few episodes.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's a big deal for Cliff. It's a lot of money. So you would think he would have gotten involved in
I
it
mean,
somehow.
like it was between this episode and the last episode that UN 23 was open. That's arguably like what a couple of weeks in their time. I mean, he barely would have got
Right,
anything anyway.
right. Um, so they do mention main wearing again. Remember that the gay boy from that second
Yeah,
season
yeah,
episode, Family,
yeah.
which I thought was kind of cool because I didn't think they were ever heard from again or even talked about, but they did. talk about them.
No, I'm a
But
little
they
bit
said that
upset
they
we
would,
get names dropped and stuff like that still.
yeah, and they say that they'll never have anything to do with Ewings again, obviously, for what happened. Um, so Ellen's mad at JR for not doubting Kristin in any way. He doubted their baby, but not Kristin's baby.
Well, that's
Like,
what she
knew
says
it was
directly,
his.
but she's pretty angry about the whole situation. Like, she was looking at prison and feeling terribly guilty for the last, like, 4 episodes over something she didn't even do. And
Right.
Kristen kind of just gets to threaten, oh, you're going to have a prison baby. And it's like, oh, no, off you go to California.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry,
Um,
but there are worse things than being born in prison. Get the hell over it. Bitch is
yeah.
crazy. Like,
Bobby
oh
blows
my
off.
God. As if it's like, oh, she was born in prison. They're not going to leave the child in prison. It would go to the natural father. Like, what the hell? Oh,
Right.
the scandal. Well, I'm sure if he could weather the scandal from Sue Ellen and his nonsense earlier that he was talking about,
Right.
I'm sure he could weather this.
Yeah, they've been
But
through worse,
whatever.
I feel like.
I just hate, like, I get it. I get it's soapy logic, but I really just thought, oh, for God's sake. You know, like, she just gets away. Of course she does.
Yeah.
Bitch.
Yep. But well, she for a little bit, not too long.
Oh wow,
Um,
she has to try and ingratiate herself back. I like Krista though; she's a good
right.
villain. I just thought, she should have, I don't know, gotten at least some sort of punishment.
Yeah, I feel like that a couple about a few of their villains.
Well, you could say
Um,
the same about JR, but I feel like over the course of the series, and because he's obviously a main character, and the amount of times he gets shot and screwed over, I think it sort of
that's
balances out.
why that's why season 13 is one of my favorites with the mental institution
Oh
because he
yeah.
deserved it. That's one of my favorite seasons. So Bobby blows off the family dinner, which of course Pam was a part of, so he's blowing off Pam again. Um, we get Dave, Donna, and Cliff. They're talking about the Takapa
Mm,
fields or whatever that is. Um, and then I think in the next episodes, after episode 8, you can start doing a drinking game of Takapa. Anytime it's
yeah.
mentioned, it's about 5 to 10 times per episode.
I think there's like something that I did notice across these episodes is I didn't remember it until it hit in like I think the sixth one where I was like, that's right. So like the show sort of consistently built over a couple of years, and this is its little flat point because now we have a whole bunch of like establishing and building again. So you've got
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it sort of starts to intro Bobby and JR's business competitiveness because Bobby obviously proves himself to be fairly competent, and
right.
which is not something that he was doing quite in the way he is now before. So like when he was
Yeah,
involved in the company before, it's a little bit different. And he's his position of actual control. So like now we see the competition raise, and then we see how these two boys kind of mirror each other,
yeah,
and why you get like the remake's portrayal of Bobby and JR's relationship the way it is very much like a duality type vibe. Bobby is kind of like JR's conscience, even though they're on the same team largely in the reboot. Um,
yeah,
the show, this is where I feel like that relationship really starts to sort of hit its stride. I actually, despite the fact that it's kind of like a lull story wise, I actually think this season is when everybody starts to really gel with their characters like perfectly,
oh,
because
for sure.
yeah, they start to really
Well, Sue Ellen's
uh,
still complicated.
uh, JR's complicated, but it's just more of like the relationship dynamics, the way the shows the iconic label that goes with the characters, I guess,
I don't think JR's complicated. I think he's just a flat out asshole. Like Sue Ellen is complicated because one minute she's this, one minute
So
she's this, one minute she's this.
you think yeah, you think Sue Ellen's complicated because she's sympathetic. JR's unsympathetic. It doesn't make him not complicated.
I feel like she almost has like split personalities, especially with the way she acts in these episodes.
That's because she's still in denial phase. It takes her until like the freaking sixth or seventh season before she stops doing that, man. Like, gosh. Like, we've still got a few
Right.
more years of Sue Ellen just bullshitting herself off and on.
So,
It's still
Donna and
great,
Cliff,
but still.
poor Cliff. Donna and Cliff go out, and he already because we know how Cliff is cheap. He's always getting Chinese food. He
Mm,
asks her out for a Mexican. He's like, $3 margarita pitcher. Like, how can you pass that up?
yeah,
She's like, well, I do like Mexican. So they go out. Lucy attempts to cook for Mitch,
it's a
and it
disaster,
doesn't.
essentially.
Because she's probably never been in the kitchen. I feel like they never showed her in the kitchen, so she's always outside eating breakfast or whatever.
Yeah,
Um, and oh gosh, they go out pretty much because he's like, yeah, it didn't turn out right. I'll take you out for burgers. Donna praises Sam at dinner, saying how like Sam's the greatest thing. Well, he was because he's dead, but like as they're out, I don't think much happened at the dinner. Just her like talking about him, and I
it's
think
just more like when you see like, it's just when Donna and Cliff kind of start like hanging out properly. Like
like
it
getting
sort
to
of
know
just
each
establishes,
other.
yeah, like establishes them just having hanging out because he invites himself out essentially with her.
Yeah. Pam worries that Bobby is liking the power of Ewing oil a little bit too much because he's spending all his time there, day and night, pretty much. Um, JR buys Sue Ellen a new car. I guess because I don't think she ever got a new one after she crashed her old one. I'm not sure, but he
Probably
does buy
not.
her. I kind of like how they get along in these episodes, but at the same time, I'm mad at Sue Ellen because she's a douchebag in these episodes.
She's just in denial and thinking that like all the problems are gone now because they've basically had a trauma bond over his shooting.
Right.
I mean,
We
like
have
if you look at it,
Harry.
it's always melodramatic and over the top, but if you like look at it through like a realism lens, yeah, they've trauma bonded and they have history, and this just keeps them together. I think at least for another year or so.
Yeah, I can't remember how it all susses out, but
I know they.
um,
I think they're in the process of divorce, or they get divorced and then they
don't
remarry by
tell me.
season 6.
Spoiler
Um,
alerts.
oh please! Anybody who's watching this already knows what happens in this show.
I know,
Like,
I know. Well, I don't remember, so I want to remember as we go along. Um, Harry calls JR about Bobby opening Ewing 23 because there's always his little goons like reporting to him with every little move Bobby makes, which is so annoying to me. JR, of course, brings it up at breakfast and ruins breakfast. Jock is not pleased because he didn't want anything to do with any Barnes anymore, besides, I guess, Pam, because she's now a Ewing. Um, Bobby threatens to leave with Pam, and Ellie's like, nope, like, let it be,
yeah,
which is kind of fun. So he gets away with that for now. Bobby meets with the cartel about Ewing 23 for the refinery deal, I think, right? They need he wants to get a refinery because they never had one and all this jazz.
yeah. So he opens up Ewing 23 again, and he wants to basically prove to Jock that he's sort of competent, and so this refinery is at a good market value or some nonsense. Like, so it is a bit pricey, but it's actually worth the money. Um,
Yeah.
and that's also why he's opened Ewing 23 because production increase. Yeah, so they can actually fill the refinery with oil to refine.
Yeah. I don't understand any of this. I kind of do, but I still don't because there's so
Well,
many
like the
things
oil that comes out of the
behind
ground
it.
needs to. It's just that they don't need to go through a separate company or a separate. They don't have to like pay money to a refinery to process and their oil or whatever.
Because
So
then they
like,
need someone else's crude and all that stuff, which is coming up.
no, they don't. No, they don't because they have their own oil wells and now they have their own refinery. They can just produce their own oil.
Yeah, but I thought that's what the whole next storyline is with Sally and Eugene, is getting the rig with all the oil or whatever, the crude.
Yeah, because he can't because the production can't meet the level of the refinery. So to make the deal worth it, he has to actually meet like actually have enough oil going through the refinery.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, so it's just to make up a deficit.
Okay. So, where was I? Jack
At least
confides.
that's how I understand it from the perspective of the show. I don't actually know if this is how things are done necessarily.
I have
So
no clue.
yeah, at least from the
Um,
perspective of the show.
Jack confides in Ray about everything. I think that's the only time Ray's like on in this episode. Um,
Yeah, Ray's sort of like a largely background and hangs out with Jock in a lot of sort of not sympathetic, but like it's more of like an emotional background support role. And obviously we
yeah,
know why. But yeah, it's just to hone
they
in those
always
little
been like a father-son kind of situation anyway.
true, but they really do drive it home in these last few episodes. It was in like season
Yeah.
two, I think, the last time they really did anything with it. So
Pam is going back to the store, which we all knew that was going to happen because Bobby's never home, so she needs something to do because she's bored.
yeah,
Um, Jock asked JR to lay off the company a little bit longer because he wants Bobby to remain president. Sue Ellen tells Dr. Elby that she and JR are close now. And yeah, that's where, so you're just saying that she's in denial for all this.
yeah,
This is why she's doing that.
yeah.
And she talks about, like, is this when she disses Bobby the whole time?
I'm not sure. It's one of them because she's with Dr. Albie, I think, once or twice in those in like episode 5 and 6, and then he's not really seen. I don't think in 7 and 8. I could be mixing it up, but whatever. Yeah, she's just in like a denial thing. I mean, if you look at it as like that abusive relationship type thing in a realistic vibe, they've gone to an inevitable escalation that blew up, and instead of going apart, they've trauma bonded, gone back together. And now she's in a denial phase where she's rationalizing all the shitty things that he's done, like having a child with her sister. Who shot him?
I know.
But yeah, so like that's how like that's. I mean, it's all they're complicated characters and stuff, but like,
Yeah.
and it all
I
sort of
guess like
serves.
I guess because she wants her marriage to work, or she did before, but he was never like paying her any attention. But now they, like you said, they bonded over that, so
Yeah,
she's
so
just
like
kind of like taking that role on again, where she's defensive of him and stuff.
well, like I know it's not necessarily like a physical sort of dominance or anything, but JR's pretty much dominated her life the entire show, and even through her positions of trying to separate herself and sort of figure out who she is and yada yada yada. Like after the car crash with the baby and everything, Sue Ellen's whole identity is still very tied to being Mrs. Ewing and not and stuff like that. She's just not as uppity as she used to be. That's like really all
Yeah.
that's changed at the moment, is that Sue Ellen's just a little bit like more humble.
Yeah.
That I don't think she really gets normal. I mean, like not normal, but like where
I know what you
where she
mean.
really separates herself from the family in a significant way.
Yeah.
Until the later seasons, I would say maybe even around 10, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Um, so we have Franklin, the banker dude, like tells JR about the Bobby and loan or whatever that he's going to meet with Bobby, and he's like,
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
lend him any money and tell everybody else not to lend him any money.
He's just giving him the skinny
Um,
and the lowdown on what he's supposed to do. Yada yada yada.
right.
JR being a manipulative bastard like always.
I know it's so annoying. Franklin basically gives Bobby the runaround. Lucy locks Mitch in and strips to get his attention, and it works this time. Um, the
It
cartel
works
made
for a
an
while. Let's be honest. It works for a while. Like whenever they kind of have like a bit of a little bit of a spit or something, they always get very
yeah,
passionate in the makeup. You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, that was never the problem between them.
right. The cartel made an offer for the refinery that Bobby wants. So Bobby goes to this guy Les to sell a bunch of properties, and he has to do it like now. And he wants to borrow against the proceeds for the collateral or whatever. It's $200 million. He already has $100 million, but he needs another $100 million, which I guess all these properties are worth.
Yeah,
And I didn't get this guy's name was Wes or Les.
I don't
Les.
think it matters. I don't think he comes back.
Well, he was in two of them. He was in two
Oh
episodes.
man, I am not remembering every character in the room for the next 300 episodes. No goddamn way.
You will, and you'll like it.
No, I won't.
Um,
No, no. There's too
Pam
many. There's too
comes.
many of those like lawyers hanging around in offices in this show.
I know there really is too many people. Um, Pam comes in. He got the refinery, and
Yeah.
JR is pissed.
Mm,
And he'll do whatever it takes, even if he has to ruin you in oil himself. Such a shit.
yeah.
Um, the next episode is the Venezuelan connection. We have guest star Joanna Cassidy in this one, who was in Falcon Crest as well. Do you remember her from Falcon Crest?
Yeah.
Okay. I love Joanna Cassidy. She's a cool lady and a great actress. So
I
it's
think
always
she's a
nice
little
to
bit
see
better
her.
in Falcon Crest, but that's probably just because, she's only guest starring here and she's not in like a recurring role or anything.
How about in she's in Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. Did you see that movie?
I don't know that
Never
one.
seen that movie? Maybe because
No.
it's an American movie. Well, it's good.
No, it's probably,
Um,
we get heaps of American movies. It's like most of our
she
movie
has a
market.
she has a great part in it though. Um, so we also have Morgan Woodward guest starring as Punk Anderson in his first
Oh,
appearance, which you said Punk comes in season 4, so you did remember that. So I did a quick little lookup of Punk. He was 93 years old when he died. He died in 2019. He lived a very long time. He has over 250 credits in his under his belt.
yeah.
He's from Fort Worth, Texas, so he's like a true Texan, which is kind of cool. Um, he his first like movie was called The Great Locomotive Chase in 1956, and his last couple of things that he did is X-Files in 95 and Millennium in 97. Um, he also was on Days of Our Lives for a year from 87 to 88 and played Philip Colville.
Huh.
Do you remember? Do you know that story? Do you know any of the 80s days?
No,
Okay.
I know like
Diana Col
I just know major
Diana
plot
Colville
points.
Diana Colville was played by Jeannie Francis and was paired up with John when Marlena left the show to do another show here. And she played he played her brother, I guess, or maybe her dad. I'm not really sure. Probably her dad, because he's significantly older than Jeannie Francis. Um, Also, I thought was interesting. In 2009, he was inducted into the Hall of Great Western Performers, which it apparently is in a National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum. Like, I didn't even know that existed, but that's cool.
Yeah,
Whatever works.
I mean, certainly looks the part, sounds the part, everything.
Right, right. So, JR tells Jock how Bobby got the money for the refinery, and Jock is not happy about it.
Yes, and this
Um,
is where we
Re-
see Jock. I'm pretty sure this eventually lead. I don't know because we didn't get up to the episodes, but I'm fairly certain this ends up leading to like some like trifecta there where like everybody wants money from the company for their respective deals, but like it's all tied up in everything else, and it causes this big shitstorm at home. I'm fairly certain. I can't remember if it's season 4 or not, but Jock's still around, so it'd actually have to be either this one
it
or
has to
next
be,
season.
yeah.
Yeah. So but that's I think that's around the time that I think Jock does the famous, real power is something you take vibe, because
Hmm,
Jock's obviously the owner. I think he just takes the money regardless or whatever. I don't know how it's
right.
tied up, but I'm pretty sure Jock just takes it. And that screws Bobby over and he has a showdown with him at the Cattleman's Club. But like I like this season, and I think if Jim Davies had lived a little bit longer, it would have been nicer to see all three of these guys kind of still wrestle over it a little bit, because you do
Yeah,
see this that happening in this. Jock less so than the boys because obviously he's older and he's a bit over it, but he still also wants to be able to just grab money and do what he wants to do if an opportunity presents itself, which it does with Puck. But
well,
yeah,
kind of what you get in these two is like Jock really likes to see Bobby and JR fighting for it. Like
mm,
and you remember what the will ends up being. So it's kind of like this is kind of where that's planted in, and they go off of that in that season, which I think is kind of cool.
That's true, but I also don't like the stupid lesson they were supposed to learn that we discover in season 7 when he knows the nature of the boys. So to pit them against each other the way he does, and then to come out with, "Well, I hope you've learned this today, boys," and it's just like, are you stupid? Like,
Right.
come on, you would have known what your sons were going to do, especially like within
Well,
the last year or so. You know?
right. So Ray stands up for Bobby, of course, because Ray's around in these episodes, but he's not like doing anything major. Sue Ellen goes to Ellie about Bobby. Um, she's upset that he's taken charge and she thinks that he needs to be taken down a few pegs. Pam gets a call from Mr. Mackey with no news on her mom, but she wants him to keep searching. She still thinks her mom might be alive and she wants to know where she comes from because she has nothing. Um, Bobby meets with Sally and Eugene. Sally, Joanna Cassidy, and Eugene is a very old man who
He's
might
been
be
there
actually like,
before.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He was in like the first season, I think, right? Or like the second, maybe.
Season 2, I think. Yeah,
He's a cool dude. I like this guy. Um, but he wants them to supply the refinery, right, with more
yeah,
crude, the
yeah,
tanker fleet with 600,000 barrels. I was trying to take
yeah.
as much as I could to understand what was happening.
Yeah, he's just trying to fill the deficit that his
Right.
refinery would have. So it's just to balance out the purchase. So to be able to like, because what he's got 100 million, but he's still borrowed $100 million essentially in collateral. So he still needs to pay that back.
Hmm.
So I think it's just to essentially just to fill it and get it done. As
Yeah.
far as I can tell. I mean, I may have missed something, but I don't think so.
Jock and Ray go to the cattle auction with those guys that talk really fast. That always cracks me up. It's like, like,
I don't
how
know
do
how
you?
anyone understands them. It's the
Apparently,
worst in
that's
the
a real
world accent
thing.
ever.
It's a real thing. Like, I don't
Oh yeah,
understand it, but it's really crazy.
it's just
And
like
they
loud gibberish.
and that's where they run into Punk
Yeah,
finally. Which they talked about Punk in the past, but when Punk saw him, he acted like he didn't see him forever. So I was confused about that. Because
they
remember, like, wasn't he
well,
off seeing Punk here and there?
no, they just mentioned punk. So like they don't, I don't think there's any. I don't remember anything direct about him being mentioned like outside of a mention as a friend of theirs.
Yeah. Um, JR goes to the office. He sees Eugene and Sally leaving, like they're meeting with Bobby. And he basically tells Bobby to step down. Because Bobby's like, "Are you asking me to step down?" He's like, "No, I'm telling you to step down. Like, this is my shit."
Yeah,
Whatever. Sue Ellen tells Dr. Elvie about Bobby. Well, this is where she said that because she was like pissed about Bobby, and he's like, you were just talking about killing JR like last week. What are you talking about?"
yeah,
Um,
fucking um, Dr. Elby, the voice of reason in this whole situation. He's not even in the family, and he's just like, should we like just gloss over the fact that you were threatening to murder him like
right,
3 weeks ago? Like, is it been that
right.
long?
JR uses Luella as an informant to tell him everything about Bobby, and he comes on to her kind of, and he's like, "Oh, how's your husband?" She's like, "Well, he's away most of the time." So we all know where this is going.
Pretty sure this is Luella's last season as well. Just on a side note.
Yeah, it might be her last few episodes. It might. I don't know if she makes it to the end of the season.
No, she screws something big up. She leaks something to Bobby by accident. JR, I think, basically bangs her and leaves, and then fires her before he leaves. It's
Yeah.
something horrible like that.
Lucy tells the family about Mitch, and she wants to have some barbecue over to meet her friends and all this jazz. Miss
The
Ellie
friends will
voices
never
her worry.
see.
Yeah, right. We'll never see them again.
Yeah,
Yeah,
except for
and her
Muriel.
bestie wasn't there. Her other one
No,
was Muriel there?
no, I don't think Muriel was there, but I'm fairly
Mm,
certain Muriel does make other appearances.
yeah, I
But
think she
she's
does.
like the only one. That one that I suppose she wouldn't hang out with that chick anymore either. I was gonna say the one
She's
that with
like,
the pretty blue eyes that gave her drugs, and I was like, oh wait, she
yeah,
wouldn't
she
hang out with her anymore.
no, she stopped her drug addiction. It was only for an episode, maybe
That
two.
was in high school.
So last year.
uh,
Um, Miss Ellie voices her worries about Bobby that he might leave South Fork. And she just tells Jock to not let that happen.
yeah,
JR meets with oh, and I I did make no. What is it? Oh no, that's later. JR meets with Sally, um, and we find out that she's pretty much pretty shady, and that she's like, "Oh, who is it you want to shaft? Like, I'll do whatever I gotta do because I'm an asshole." Type vibe.
Yeah.
I love her hair. I like her red hair in this episode. I didn't like her hair in Falcon Crest. It was very, I don't know, it just not her because this is like her normal color in real life. I feel like. Bobby attempts to talk to Sue Ellen, in his shorty shorts, in his shorty short swim shorts, a sexy beast, and she says that he needs to be stopped, and she goes off with her man JR, and he just gives a look like what? Um, Pam tells Bobby that Mackie thinks her mama is still alive. Bobby's just, he's kind of like pushing her away, I feel like. He's just like, oh,
He's
don't
just
get your
telling her
hopes
not to
up.
get her hopes up,
In every
which is fair.
scene, he says the same thing. It's
Yeah,
fair,
but like,
but he
what
says it
else?
every time.
Yeah, but like, Pam is a little bit like support me regardless of what realism says.
Right,
Like Pam's a little bit like that throughout the whole show. Like just a little bit. She's just like, just trust me based on nothing. You know? And like, she's just had like these major blows. She's feeling like an identity crisis because her dad isn't her dad. I mean, like, if you're right, he's not sort of doing the right thing in terms of like being honest and trying to like make her feel supported, but he should, I think he could do that in ways of like just trying to reaffirm who she already is rather than just pish poshing her search. Because that's how it comes
right,
across. But Pam, I actually find like Pam's they always talk about like Pam being like the stronger, like out of the two wives, like Swellen and Pam. Then I don't think that. I think that it's not
mhm,
so much a strength over who, it's just different
right.
breaking points. Pam's not
Different breaking points,
exactly,
different circumstances.
yeah. So like, and we see Pam really start to struggle with things like mental health over the next couple of seasons. You know,
Yeah,
and whereas
which is
I mean, Sue Ellen's
which
had
is the
issues with her.
downfall. Well, this is the downfall in her writing, I feel like, in the writing of Pam.
Way she comes back from it, I think is fantastic though. And it starts so while what happens resolves itself, the character doesn't then be defined by her parental role. She's still Pam searching for the bigger thing. She still wants to be sort of like the business lady, and she loves her kid and does the mum thing. But it's
Well,
both.
yeah. Well, but how it ends though with her is not pretty.
I think I honestly,
But we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. We got a lot of
I
seasons.
think for me, despite the issues between her and Bobby, the best Pam years are 6 to 10
Right. I
because I think
agree
she's
with
just,
that.
yeah, just as her as a
But
character, like, yeah.
but then after that, I feel like that's where they fucked up. But
Oh yeah,
anywho.
yeah. They were fine right up until they wrote her out and
Yes,
do
exactly.
that soapy thing essentially,
That
which is annoying.
Pam would never have done.
No,
Um, so Punk tells Jock that he's into redevelopment. I only mention this because I know this is the whole thing that you just talked about, how they kind of like start getting all this crap going on and getting
yeah,
money invested in everything.
swamplands or some junk.
We
That's
have
what Puck mentions.
this guy at a bar that we don't know yet. His name is Amos, but we don't know that until later.
English
Um,
cribs.
he overhears Ray Krab's name and he's like, "Ooh, what?"
I've never understood the
Um,
toothpick thing.
the what?
Every
Yeah,
time,
well,
like every time that guy was in the scene, I just could notice the toothpick, and I was like, I don't get the toothpick. I've never
I
gotten
think
the
it's
toothpick.
I think it's a character thing. Like he
Is
probably
it though?
may
But
have
what's it
wanted.
from? What the hell's it from? Like, because like old cartoons do it too, and I'm like, and stuff like that. I should look it up because I was thinking about that at the time, and I just didn't. I should look it up because I don't know what the hell that's supposed to like. Why are you chewing it? Why?
Well,
You just got
look
wood
it up
chips.
and we'll talk about it in the next one. So he asked the bartender about him because he heard like overheard Jock say his name or whatever. Mitch is kind of awkward at the barbecue. He doesn't seem to fit in, so he basically runs out on Lucy, which is kind of shitty.
It's because they all start flashing their money and they expect him to be the one to do it, but Lucy's the one with the money. So he's
Right,
like doing the male thing of being like, "Bleh, I don't bet unless I have the money to do so, and I don't." And
right.
she's like, "Well, that doesn't matter." See, like,
I don't
I
have
actually really
money.
love Lucy.
Eh.
I actually love Lucy through all of this. She sort of gets it, but she's also telling him to grow up.
Right, for sure.
And I really
Um,
like the way she handles it. I love
Pam
Mitchie.
tells, I do too until a certain point.
Mm.
Um, Pam tells Cliff about Mama. He says, let her stay in the past. Why are you dredging things up? She doesn't want anything to do with us, blah, blah, blah. If she is alive, blah, blah, blah. Jock comes by the office. Um, I put, dude happy with his meeting. I forget who was talking to Bobby at the time. Like you said, there's so many people. I didn't catch this guy's name. So I forget who it was.
I'm not sure which scene it
Um,
is, so it could have. I would
it,
say that it would just be securing. I know that he's. Yeah, no,
it's
I think
right
it's just.
after Mitch left the
No,
pool.
I'm fairly certain it's just securing distribution or something like that. I swear it was just a general like follow up to the deal that he's already doing.
Right.
Yeah,
Lucy goes to Mitch to apologize, but then she's mad at him all of a sudden because he's being a dickhead. And she's like, you're a snob for not wanting to hang with my friends and blah, blah, blah.
you're a snob for
And
not
then,
wanting to hang with my rich friends, essentially.
yeah, yeah. Um, Jock seems to be happy with Bobby and wants him to stay president. JR tells to Ellen that Bobby is heading for a fall because he's very happy all of a sudden because he knows he's planning some shit. Pam comes to Ewing to see Bobby and Connie celebrating his deal. He gets a call. The tanker sank, lost $18 million. The oil's all gone, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And that's all I got for that one.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Because it just sort of leads into um, what the next one, which is oh god, I can't even remember the name.
The fourth son.
Ah, yeah, there we go.
I wonder what that's about.
Mm.
But I guess back then they didn't have titles. They would just give like an explanation in a TV guide. If it had titles, I'm sure people would have figured it out.
Well, chances
Um,
are, like, wait, did they have the episode titles in the TV guide? I feel like it would just be like the listing and then like a little description.
that's exactly what it was. They didn't have the titles in the TV
Oh,
guide.
okay, sorry. Yeah,
So I
yeah.
guess they
Okay.
were just script titles that they never used until they released them on DVD.
Oh no, yeah, they those episodes would have been titled that way in production and everything. Just probably,
Right,
yeah.
right. So JR brings the paper. What?
Isn't Early Falcon? Doesn't Early Falcon Crest do the episode titles at the start?
Yeah.
Yep.
I think second season.
It stops.
I don't know. It starts in the second
Oh,
season. I don't think they start it in the first
oh,
season.
okay. Anyways,
But I
sorry, just side
remember
note.
it being in the second. So JR brings the paper with the oil tankers issue. Bobby says they have insurance. They'll take care of it. It's just a little blip.
Mm,
Um, that dude is hanging around Ray's house, Amos. Have Brady York comes in, worried about his product getting to his buyers on time. I don't know if we see this guy again. They all kind of look the same to me at this point.
I think he comes in and guilt Bobby later at some point, but that's about it.
Yeah, I
It's
think
just,
so.
you know what kind of annoys me a little bit is this guy. This guy, like, I get it, but this guy is coming in and like it's just, oh, I understand that you got this supply problem, but I need my supply. And it's like,
Right.
bruh, like,
Bruh.
are you listening? Anyway,
Bobby says he will have his oil on time. He'll keep his promise and all that stuff. Even though he's like worried and like going
yeah, yeah.
crazy behind the scenes. Sally calls JR while Sue Ellen is rubbing oil on him at the pool. Um, and they set up a meeting for later or whatever. Jock tells Ellie that Bobby's gotta handle the mess himself. Um, basically doesn't want to step in. He's like, he created it. He's got to do it himself, or he's not fit to run the company. That's that. Which
Yeah,
is
pretty
pretty
much.
ballsy. Which is pretty, but I guess it makes sense. I mean, that's what Jock did. He handled all
Yeah.
his shit. I'm sure he had issues back in the day and all that. Um, I put Bobby pressures dude to get oil to the refineries in a few days. I don't know what dude that is.
So he tells the truckers to load up and go to the Ewing oil refinery and not over to the smaller, like that smaller distributor guy. So
Right.
he's going to basically fill his refinery before he's going to fill the orders that he already has. And
Okay.
some of the orders are for smaller mobs. So like they won't survive it essentially because they don't have the money to carry over.
Yeah. So when Ray returns home, he sees the dude sitting at, well, this is another dude, who it's Amos. It was, says that he's his long lost daddy. Ray tells him that Jock is more of a father than he ever was because he didn't even remember this man. Um, and gives him $100 to get out of the way. I guess doesn't work. Mitch comes to the house. Lucy introduces him. Says something like he grew up thinking people with money were his enemies and whatever, and they're gonna
Oh my
date
god,
on his
I hated that.
income.
He sounds like a less fixated Cliff with that line, and I'm just like, ugh. Like I just
I
hate
know,
it. It's like, oh, they were the enemy. I'm like, can't you just say that I was always taught that rich people are snobby bastards or something? Like, does it always have to be like the enemy? You
I
can
know,
tell this was
right?
written in Cold War era, eh? Like, nah.
Pam tells Bobby to let Ewing oil go. He says he can't.
Mm.
I guess a guy Ward comes by, broke the handshake deal that him and Jock. That's what I didn't know what was going on with the handshake.
It's
So
just because I think that is literally just because he can't fulfill the order that he was talking about. And because it was like with the guy, like all those deals were in place for years already, like with Joe. Yeah, that's all.
okay.
It's just to illustrate that Bobby's compromising morally in order to get his way.
Oh, I gotcha. Um, Ray's dad and Jock meet up. He mentions a Margaret Hunter that Jock apparently had an affair with. He has the diary from 1946 when they were in the war together. She was a nurse, and they just didn't have anybody. I guess they were lonely, whatever. Um, and he finds out that he is Ray's dad. Um, and this dude wants to blackmail him for some land and a house, is what I
Yeah,
got from it.
yeah, money essentially.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Sorry. He's still got claws in the back and it kills me. Um, well, he just drank some of my water, so hopefully he'll behave the rest of the time. Um, so where was I? Bobby finds out he has no coverage. The insurance, I guess that lady lied, Sally.
Yeah, so he's only, I think it, what was it? He was only insured for the vessel or something
Hmm.
really weird. It was something really weird that nobody would make that mistake, you know?
Right.
Yeah,
She's like, you
because like,
must have misunderstood.
yeah, and he's like, ah, no, bitch.
Cliff and Donna are out. He mentions the Ewing tanker. He's just like following up on their business.
Yeah.
And he's like they're basically set up to battle, like Ewing versus Ewing, and I don't care which one fails as long as it's a Ewing. Um, Bobby goes to Eugene and questions him. He knows his wife is shady, it seems. So he kept the key so he can get into the safe or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and they check the safe and then they find those papers that prove what exactly the tank. I forget what it was, the tanker thing. Um,
Um, yeah, basically that they set it up. They staged it.
right. Jock goes to Ray's. He mentions he was friends with his mom, who was really close friends with his mom, and that they had an affair and all that jazz. And he says, "You're my son," basically. Um, and Ray says he wants to keep it how it is because he cares about Jock and doesn't want anything to change, which I think is really sweet. He doesn't want to cause any other problems for the Ewings. They have enough issues, I guess. Um, Eugene sends Bobby to Sally. He like rats on her basically because he knows her secret apartment that she, I guess, bangs other men in. I'm not
Yeah,
positive. And he says basically do what you have to do, but she's still my wife, and at the end of the day, I'll still be with her.
yeah.
So he doesn't really, but whatever. Amos goes to Ray's, says he is somebody now being a Ewing. He did him a favor. Bobby goes to Sally's, um, threatens her with jail for fraud and all this other stuff, and basically do this, sign this, do what I need you to do, or that's that. You're going to jail. Bobby confronts JR. Ray comes in as they're about to fight, and then Jock tells the family about Ray.
I would say that this is probably like so. Like, there's a big sense of these characters with identity.
Mm,
So, Suella. So far, it really only seems like the Ewing men and maybe Miss Ellie really know who they are, and stuff like that. So you've got Pam, whose whole world has sort of been shattered after thinking she's got an identity. No, and then she doesn't. Like, her dad's not her dad. Like, Cliff is her brother, but like it's still, she needs to see the other connection there. Ray has never really had a connection to his father, and his mother died when he was a young man. So he's always sort of had Jock as the paternal figure, and then he suddenly finds out that this actual paternal figure he's always looked up to is his actual dad. um, and that suddenly that he doesn't always have to be. Well, not this is obviously something that plays out later, in different ways. But then the options become more when you're considered to be worth something, and that is very true what Amos said, because we see this take hold in Ray. We see it in the way that he tries to measure up even with Donna, and then he tries to measure up with the other two. And the thing is, he's just a different man.
yeah,
And not in the same way that Gary is, but in his own way. Because they always talk about Ray and Gary being similar, and I think that that's I think that's all sort of like aesthetic, like on the surface. So it's like that
right.
they both just happen to love the land. I think both men are actually, well, both characters are very different men. Um, but yeah, so it's just sort of that thing there, and like JR and Bobby know who they are though. They know who they are. That's why, yeah, and
Yeah,
it's just interesting the way these dynamics are actually playing out, because I didn't realize just how much identity is a theme, and the way this show, because I always say that this show is the classic and almost the perfect sort of family drama of character driven plots, and this sort of is a good example of that, where you have these identity themes that I just never even noticed before really playing out, the way it does with
yeah.
developing characters. See,
JR's
I think
face
that was,
cracked me up in this when he
oh,
found
when you
out.
find out, yeah, and there's a
Because
freeze frame. One thing I'll
he's
say
like
is
another
like,
brother.
I think there's a point. I do think that there's a point in the show where the characters stop kind of developing as characters, and they're more just the characters that we the iconic characters playing out plots. So like
Right.
Dallas is the character driven plot for most of its run, but I think it's like in the last, say, 3 or 4 seasons, it kind of just goes. It's not it's not like people running around as body doubles like Dynasty, but it is campier, and stuff happens that only happens in soapies. Like, it doesn't really, it makes soap, it's logical in a soapy way. It's
And
not
so,
logical in
yeah,
necessarily, yeah, a storytelling way. And there's
which is why
just,
they
yeah,
ignored it pretty much in the new series.
mm, they shouldn't have, because they shouldn't have. It was still better written, and it was still well
Yeah,
written and still reflected the
agree.
characters, but the characters weren't developing anymore as
But they did
much. It was,
because they could have done something with like JR's son in the later seasons coming back in the new Dallas.
yeah, no, that's true. Like, it was wasted. I don't really think
Yeah.
that. should have happened. I think it should have. I don't think the extra sun really added anything. But what did annoy me is that knowing that that was there, that the remake, like the last episode of the reboot, we hear about JR's other illegitimate child, and I'm waiting to hear a boy, and it's a sister, and I'm like, that's dumb. We already have an established son. Like,
Right.
come on, just
Yeah.
cast the actual dude again. He would still be the right age. Like,
I know,
he'd
right?
be the
I know.
perfect age. But
I
whatever.
know.
Don't listen to me, Cynthia Sidre. You know, a good 6 years after nearly 10 years after the fact.
Yeah, she should have done more work. But anyway, we got Trouble at Ewing 23 episode or season 4 episode 8. Miss Ellie and Ray have a nice conversation. She's like, I kind of always knew, but now it's
She's
official,
a
so
liar.
you're part of the family. I know, I know. I remember what happens later.
She's just doing that supportive thing and stuff, but she should just be honest and say it makes her deeply uncomfortable and she didn't know and she didn't suspect.
Right. Well, it's Miss Ellie. I mean, I know she comes across as real too for her.
This old lady fronts so much.
We know Miss Ellie has some issues, but we still don't like to see her upset for some reason. Um, Pam and Jackie, I made note of this. They have this model shoot or whatever is going on in there with these women and men in country outfits. I guess they're doing some kind of, I don't know, modeling show. But I
Yeah.
made point to say that it's actually Jackie now. Remember her? She had the
Oh,
different
yeah,
name.
yeah.
Now it's Jackie. So it's the Jackie we know and love, even though it was her before, but with a different name. I wonder why they changed her name.
I don't know.
Uh, but Mackie sees Pam about Rebecca again. Found a man that Nate may have known her, I think, or something like that. So we're getting a little bit deeper with Rebecca. Does she come this season? I think she does.
Yeah,
I know.
I think it's towards the end
Yeah, I think so too.
because I remember Morgan Brittany appears at the end of the season too. I think she's in like the last 2 or 3 episodes. I think.
Yeah,
So I'm pretty
I
sure
think
it's
so
late.
too. Ray sees Donna's pick in the paper. Um,
He
Pam
gets
goes
all
to tell.
morose about it.
Yeah, they play this music and he's just looking at it like doody doo. I forgot how they ended it. Like even watching again, I'm like, weren't they supposed to get back together when she came back in town? Like I was so confused.
It happens after his paternity reveal. It's not too long away.
Right. Yeah, but I meant like she started dating Cliff, but whatever. Um, then I think Cliff and Donna actually mentioned they've been together for 7 weeks at this point. So I don't know if time actually passed or if there was it's just
Yeah, no,
supposed to
so
be
like
later.
it's just to establish that they've been together because we haven't really seen them together. They're really just kind of lingering in the background here so that we have this sort of like thread of connectivity, you know? Because
Right.
Cliff's obviously contract, so he has to be in episodes.
Right,
Um,
right.
but I think it's just because it's all because of Ray's. I think Ray and Donna's story they probably would have got married last season if they weren't sort of trying to distance Ray from Lucy.
Yeah.
So like that's the whole reason why, in my opinion, that he doesn't make massive amounts of appearances in like season 3 because it's just sort of
Right.
like, oh, we want to do this, but if we do this, people are going to remember that you like banged your niece.
Yeah, right.
But yeah,
Um, Pam goes to tell Cliff about the news about Rebecca again, even though he doesn't care. I don't know why she tries. And she sees Donna and Cliff kiss, and then she leaves. She's like, "Oh, I interrupted something. I'll leave. Come back later." We see that someone puts a bomb at Ewing 23. That's which is basically like the whole episode. I hardly have any notes for this one because that's basically
so
it. I
it's
just
basically
saw.
Ewing 23. Yeah, so Ewing 23 is basically being held hostage by this worker. Um,
That
and
was
it's sort of
affected
more,
when JR shut it down.
yeah, who was affected when JR shut the well down originally. And he wants to
Hmm.
obviously get back at them and he needs money, blah, blah, blah. But this episode is still, once again, largely centered around the dynamic of how to handle a crisis, really. And that's the way Bobby does it, and we see the way JR does it in the same episode.
Bobby
And
wants to
so,
pay him off,
yeah,
and he doesn't want to give in to those people.
yeah, because you always pay. And Bobby's like, no, we need to save the well because this is like business. Yeah, Bobby's more about
Right.
trying to find some sort of resolution that doesn't involve flames and death.
And I like that Pam inadvertently tells the family about Cliff and Donna. Like she doesn't want to, but she gets mad at JR, and she just I like when she says, I get mad at them, but like I just can't control myself when he just pisses me off.
Some
So
people are like that, though.
she just blurted it out. I know, and it happened before too with
Oh
when
no, I
she
just meant when
revealed
some people
Cliff's.
get to you like that. Some people just get to you
Oh
like
no,
that.
I
It
know,
doesn't
I
matter.
know.
Yeah,
But yeah, I'm just saying it happened to her before with Cliff when she revealed that there was the what was it
an abortion.
yeah,
Yeah,
the abortion, yeah. I was
at
gonna
least
say
it's far
miscarriage, but
less.
yeah, it was abortion.
What? The miscarriage? No, no,
Um,
no. It was a legal abortion.
yeah, it was an abortion. I remember now. It was his girlfriend from New York or whatever.
Yeah,
Um, Pam tries to talk to Bobby about her ma, and she tells them off pretty much like, "You're not listening to me. You're just all about work, blah blah blah." JR thinks Sue Ellen still has feelings for Cliff because she got weird when Pam mentioned that he was seeing
Donna.
what's her name? Yeah. Donna goes to see Ray to tell him that she's dating Cliff, which I thought was nice before he like found out. Um,
He already saw the
and
paper. He already knew.
was Cliff in? Did it say on the paper? I forget what it said on
It
there,
has a picture of her with Cliff. Yeah.
but he didn't say that he knew,
Well,
so
why
he
would
just
he?
whatever. Right.
He's going to be like, "Oh, I'm
Um,
not following you in the paper at all. You know, why would I be doing that?" And she's just like, "Well, I'm dating." And then he's like, "Oh, well, that's nice." And then goes and has a whine about it.
right. Well, she was on the front page. You can't avoid
That's
it.
what I mean. Yeah, exactly. So, like, Cliff was in the picture with her, though. But anyway, keep going.
Um, a dude comes to tells Ray and Bobby someone called. They threatened the bomb scare type thing, and they want $5 million, which we talked about, or they'll blow up Ewing 23. Pam and Cliff fight about Rebecca, and she basically calls him um, a gold digger because why are you with Donna? Is it for her money? I know you like, I know what you think. He's like, I would never do
And Cliff doesn't really answer it, though. It goes sort of like a, huh, where they're
that.
both kind of pondering and looking at each other. But I do think that a lot of the other plots in the show are somewhat sort of put on hold because they're trying to do like an actiony episode. I actually was noticing
Right.
that the tone of the episode, it was far more fast paced and a lot happened in the 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so like you have Bobby like racing to get the money. You have JR being like, no, I also know how to deal with these sort of situations, and trying to sort of show that he can handle it in the background. Um, and I think that in the end, in the end, it's Bobby also trying to. So when you have Bobby on his own, you have him make these moral compromises. So we see him in terms of business, but we see him not cross that line in terms of in the bedroom with business, right?
Right.
And now we see this backstep where whenever he's pitted against JR, he's the good guy. Like he'll try and do the right thing. So when Bobby has JR to measure himself against, he's like this. When Bobby's on his own, he's not like vicious like JR, mind you, but he is
Right.
more morally ambiguous. And this becomes more and more apparent as the show goes. I think this, despite the fact that like it's kind of slow building and these episodes are a bit flat, they establish a bucket load of traits, development, or starting to develop massive core factors of the characters. We already know this about JR, but we don't know this about Bobby yet, and this is where we start to see it. And
Right.
as it builds, it's all dramatic, and JR comes with the money, and the guy runs out. Cops draw weapons, he draws weapons, they shoot the dude, who then hits the button before he cucks it and
Yep.
blows Ewing 23 to shit. Um,
Which is
JR and him
very
obviously.
fake looking in the background. The
Oh,
flames.
come on now. It wasn't bad for 1981. Come on.
It
It's
was
TV in
pretty bad.
1981. Like,
It was pretty
I don't know. For its time, I think it fits perfectly. Have you seen early Smallville? Or
good.
2000, like 2001, 2002 Smallville is not fantastic, hey? Like,
Right.
but
Um,
yeah. And JR's just like, well, I did what I could. He pulled a gun. What were they supposed to do? Because Bobby also mentions not just the loss of the field, but the loss of life. Whereas JR's like,
and
you
I
give
guess
in.
and I guess JR brought the money like to fake it out because like
Yeah,
uh,
yeah,
and then
absolutely.
like and why did he tell them all to like because that was confusing too because he called the loan dude. He's like, don't give the money out, don't tell anybody to give the money out, but he brought money anyway, which I was confused about.
Well, it's probably their money. I would assume that it's probably their money. They're like,
Okay.
so he's not, so they don't owe
And
anybody. So if they did
that's
lose it,
when that's when that last dude came back from the last episode, the one that sold his properties and stuff. He was in that one. He brought the money. So
yeah,
that's why I
yeah,
was like, what? So maybe
yeah.
he
So I
sold
think
more
I
properties?
honestly think it was just a fake out. I honestly think it was just a fake out. JR. So the cops were on the plane with JR. They would have just either arrested this guy or even the 80s. They probably had a, they don't mention it, but like if it doesn't, well, oh no, wouldn't it have been easier to just mark the bills from a bank? I don't know. But either way, it was
I
definitely
don't
a
know.
fake out. In that regard, it was definitely a fake out because JR had cops on there with him.
Right.
So maybe, yeah. I think that perhaps they'll probably press for time towards the end of the episode. So they're like, oh, we have to escalate this quickly.
Right. Yeah,
But
it
yeah,
seems like it.
but it is very much more about the dynamic of Bobby and JR
Yeah.
in a more in a in a passive way, as we see from what just after the mid of season 5, I think it is. We start to see how destructive it can become, and I don't think that stops until like season 7.
Yeah.
I think that
Uh,
it's probably some. I think, yeah, the fantastic writing in those years.
these were some fun episodes. And I'm wondering when Connie goes off because I know we get Phyllis in episode 16 of this season. I think I looked it up. So she must leave soon, I
Mm.
guess. I don't remember. All
Oh,
right,
and the
well,
episode pretty much
okay.
ends there. Yeah, it ends just after the explosion
Hmm.
and Bobby being like,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he had kind of attacks JR again because, this
"Yeah,
whole
they
thing
argue."
happened before with Cliff when Cliff was in peril and they had to fight for all that stuff, Bobby and all that.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll wrap up this Dallas episode. We'll bring you more soon. Have a good night, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Follow us on all the socials, Queers and Soaps, on everything, whatever, and we'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.